You were a grown man in a relationship and you stayed in it.
He actively chose to remain in this relationship. He had so many outs. He didn't propose for like 9 years. Why did you enter a marriage that was so toxic if you knew it was so bad? You must have wanted something out of it and it bit you in the ass. He looked around and found out, and now he's just upset about it.
Well, Johnny, you around and you're about to find out. 2 months ago, I decided to take a break from creating YouTube videos because I work a full-time job and I just didn't have the time to continue. So I would like to congratulate Johnny Silvestri for making such ridiculous and insensitive statements that enraged me to the point where I had to make time to make this video. I will not be able to cover the majority of what was said in Swoop's docuseries video. Number one, because it's a over 3 hour long video and I don't want to just regurgitate what Swoop said and what she discovered. And number two, with the information regarding certain arguably more disturbing aspects of that video, it was given to Swoop specifically. People confided within Swoop. And even if those are anonymous people and that information is now public, I don't feel right covering it. I was not entrusted with this information. Before watching this video, I highly recommend going and watching Swoop's video first so you get a full picture of the entire situation. In this video, I wish to accomplish two things. The first being to clarify exactly what rooming is, and the second is to debunk certain statements that Johnny Silvestri himself has made in regards to DV survivors that are misleading and harmful. First, I must give you a background. Johnny Silvestri was a fan of Colleen Ballinger and her now ex-husband Joshua Evans. Johnny claims that he was roomed by Joshua. How exactly? We don't know, because he's never explicitly stated or given any evidence towards the rooming allegations. The one thing that he has stated is that Joshua gave Johnny his phone number while Johnny was underage, which, yes, is deeply inappropriate, but he has omitted certain context regarding this situation, namely that his family members were present and were completely aware that Joshua had given his phone number to Johnny. The NSPCC is the UK's leading children's charity, and I will be now reading parts of their article on rooming. Types of rooming. Children and young people can be roomed online, in person or both, by a stranger or someone they know. This could be a family member, a friend, or someone who has targeted them, like a teacher, faith group leader, or sports coach. When a child is roomed online, roomers may hide who they are by sending photos or videos of younger people. Sometimes this will be of someone younger than them to gain the trust of a peer. They may target one child online or contact lots of children very quickly and wait for them to respond. The relationship of a roomer builds can take different forms. This could be a romantic relationship, as a mentor, as an authority figure, as a dominant and persistent figure. Based on the evidence presented, Johnny is stating that Joshua was trying to become a mentor figure to him, which, yes, does fit into a type of rooming. A roomer can use the same sites, games, and apps as young people, spending time learning about a young person's interests, and use this to build a relationship with them. Children can be roomed online through social media networks, text messages and messaging apps like WhatsApp, email, text, voice, and video chats in forums, games, and in apps. The problem herein is that, from what we can see in Swoop's video, there was very little contact between Joshua and Johnny online. Johnny himself states on multiple occasions that Joshua didn't really know him very well. How exactly is Joshua trying to build up a relationship with Johnny if he doesn't know his own interests to lure him in? How is that going to work? Evidence provided by Joshua himself shows that the majority of the time it was Johnny reaching out to Joshua, which is not rooming. Whether online or in person, roomers can use tactics like pretending to be younger, giving advice or showing understanding, buying gifts, giving attention, taking on trips, outings or holidays. Joshua did show Johnny some understanding after Johnny said to him that he was depressed. Rumours might also try and isolate children from their friends and family, making them feel dependent on them and giving the rumour power and control over them. They might use blackmail to make a child feel guilt and shame, or introduce the idea of secrets to control, frighten and intimidate. Johnny's family were fully aware of Joshua's presence in Johnny's life. They were present when the phone number was exchanged, and in Johnny's own words, they badgered Joshua into creating a happy birthday video for Johnny and sending it over. This is just a fraction of the points with evidence from Swoop's video. What it looks like to me is that Johnny has a rudimentary understanding of what rooming is, and he's taken a couple of these points and applied it to his own narrative. But you see, a couple of these points does not make a rumour. Adults can have an understanding and supporting relationship with a child, like a teacher and a student. It doesn't automatically make that adult a rumour. An adult can send messages through social media to minors. It does not automatically make that adult a rumour. For example, an adult celebrity replying "thanks" to an underage fan doesn't imply rooming. An adult counsellor talking to a child in private to protect their confidentiality and keeping their friends and family out of the loop does not imply rooming. It's a therapeutic relationship. All of these things combined can make a rumour, but individually they don't. So that is why I believe that Johnny has a very basic understanding of rooming and is picking and choosing certain points and applying them to Joshua Evans. Johnny has stated that this is his own understanding of rooming, but in reality he's just concocted his own definition of it to suit this situation. For example, what he thinks Joshua was doing to him was rooming, but what he was doing in video chats with children that included alcohol and inappropriate adult talk clearly wasn't rooming. You see how certain definitions in Johnny's mind can be flipped on a whim to suit his own ends? Interesting, isn't it? But what truly pushed me over the edge were his comments regarding Colleen Ballinger and Joshua Evans' relationship and subsequent divorce. You see, allegedly there was DV within that relationship, with Joshua being the survivor at the time. This is all alleged. To my knowledge, none of this has gone through the legal system. No one has been declared innocent or guilty. Yet, in regards to Johnny himself, the sinister aspect comes in when he talks about Joshua and his role in his own alleged DV. Yes, apparently, guys, everyone who has been in a DV relationship just should have got out of there sooner. Did you know that? It could have fixed all of our problems, right? Because it was our fault truly for staying in that situation and not the perpetrator whatsoever. Am I right, Johnny? We all just effed around and found out, didn't we? The reason I am so angry about this is because, much to the chagrin of Johnny, his narrative being faulty and full of deceit does not impact on the stories of Adam, Ella, Becky, Oliver, and anyone else who was involved with Colleen. It does not. He has tried to use that as a defense. If people don't believe me, then what does that say about them believing Adam, or Ella, or Oliver, or Becky? It doesn't say anything, but what your statements do say can be applied to anyone who has ever gone through DV. Your blatant misrepresentation of interactions that you had with Joshua doesn't change the fact that Adam painstakingly went through every single interaction he had with Colleen. It does not take away from that. It doesn't take away Becky's feelings of how she felt on that stage. What it does do is make a stigmatized statement about DV survivors that has been around for decades continue to be said. It continues the cycle of stigmatization. Why didn't she just leave him? What? He's a man and he couldn't defend himself? Do these things sound familiar to you? I could sit here and go through every single psychological theorem regarding DV and victims who decide to stay. I could go through every single scholarly article and study that has statistics to back up certain psychological theorem as to why DV victims decide to stay. And it wouldn't be worth it, because that grin that you have at the very end tells me everything I need to know. Trauma and mistreatment only matters when it happens to you. You don't think about the other types of mistreatment that preceded the physical mistreatment beforehand, do you? You believe that only the physical matters, which is ironic because Joshua never touched you once. You don't consider any financial mistreatment that might be going on that keeps DV survivors where they are, or any emotional and psychological mistreatment that coerces them to stay. You don't think of these things because you don't care about them. If your defense is, I was talking about only Joshua, I hate to break it to you, but DV survivors heard it. You shouldn't have said it, but you do not care. Can I ask you, Johnny, what is the acceptable amount of time to remain in a DV relationship before it becomes the survivor's fault? 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years? How long does a person have until they can leave and be considered a victim or survivor? And to add insult to injury, you had the gall to say it right to the face of Swoop, whom you know is a survivor of DV. You looked her in the eye and said these things. You do not deserve grace. You do not deserve sympathy. From what I can see, you're an opportunistic liar who got slighted by someone because they didn't give you enough attention. And in the miraculous case that I, Swoop, and so many others are wrong, provide the evidence. All of it. The best thing that you can do now is leave forever and stop piggybacking off of Adam and the others. Let them tell their stories in peace. Let them have their moment and their truth be heard. Leave. I said that if I thought a topic was important enough to talk about, then I would come back and make a video, and I fulfilled that promise. I didn't think it would be so soon. I thought I myself would get some peace. Some of the topics that I cover are dark and deep, and they do take a toll. At the end of this video, I want to say to Josh, do not listen to a word this man says. If you are guilty of the things that he accuses you of, I have no sympathy for you in that regard. However, your DV is not any less significant just because you stayed. I want to say to anyone who was involved with Johnny, like Adam or Becky or anyone else whose stories he tried to hijack to make himself a name, I am so sorry. You do not deserve that, and your stories are still as valid as the day they came out. To Swoop, I am so sorry that your involvement was weaponized against you when you had the purest intentions, and that this man sat for 6 hours with insane ramblings and invalidating statements directly to your face. And to my subscribers, I'm sorry I was so mad in this video, and I am currently fuming. Hopefully, if I do come back with another video anytime soon, it might be lighter, but hey ho, we will have to see. Anyway, I will see you in the next video. Bye.